70 Division Street. I just want to clarify for people in the audience what my attorney submitted to the select board. Although my husband and I, as clients of Mitch Greenwald, did not oppose the withdrawal without prejudice, I just want to make one thing very clear. I am very, very angry over this project. I don't think I have slept through the night since mid-May 2019. I've seen plans changed over and over again. I've tried to keep up with it. We hired a lawyer. What's worse, I've lost friendships, and worse yet, I've lost respect for some people. So I just want to make it clear that they withdrew without prejudice, but in the meantime, I will continue my homework. Our opposition group will continue to meet, and we'll be ready if Fulcrum resubmits. To that end, I just wanted to point out a couple things. June 6, 2019, a document came before the Board of Health called the Regulation to Ensure the Sanitary and Safe Operation of Marijuana Establishments. It's 10 pages long. In this document are facets that would protect neighborhoods, protect residents. For some reason, it hasn't been approved yet, and I don't know why. I hear it's been at town council, but if a town council can't review 10 pages and present an opinion, I think we have a problem. So I suggest that, because I will be dogging the select board on that. I don't know what, for whatever reason, why this has not been done. Even now, tonight, I've heard several times at the parking on School Street, a concern about losing housing. Yet, the select board entertains a project where residents in a densely populated neighborhood would lose the enjoyment of theirs. So I see a dichotomy in the town of Great Barrington, where for some areas it's okay, for others it's not. And as a matter of fact, I've already begun my research for round number 2. And I've taken each board and committee in the town of Great Barrington, analyzed their mission, and how it did not mesh with what was going on with regard to the Fulcrum application in our neighborhood. So we're far from done yet. Another question I have is not Fulcrum, and you can take a sigh of relief. My daughter was home at the Christmas holiday, and we drove by the Housatonic School. And my daughter, who now lives in Boston, said to me, why is the town letting Housatonic School run down? Good question. It really, every time I go by it, I don't understand why it's being allowed to deteriorate further. So at some point, I would like an update on the Housatonic School at a future meeting. I know tonight's not the night. And speaking of Housatonic, the Housatonic Improvement Committee, I was just wondering, are you receiving applications for that committee? And when is it anticipated that maybe appointments would be made to the committee? Just in general, just roughly.
I'm thinking that, we've received a number of applications.
Good.
I would say somewhere in the range of 20, 25.
Excellent.
We expect to make appointments either at our January 27th meeting or February 10th. So,
Okay.
While you're on it, isn't the school scheduled to come before us in one of those meetings?
yes,
Which-
the school is also coming back before the board.
Okay. All right, that's great. Thank you very much.
Michelle.
Hi, Sarah Yo, 16.
You just need to talk into the microphone because the acoustics are
Sarah
not
Yo,
great.
can you hear me?
No, even closer.
Sarah Yo, 16 Andersonville Road. And I thought I would just read this. It's written by 2 guys out in Oregon, Richard Sedlock and Jerry Stelmeyer. One's a professor, one's a lawyer. The article is called, "Living Near Marijuana Grove Can Be Unhealthy." Are the neighbors of large cannabis operations just collateral damage? Here's what it's like to live next to the industrial-scale marijuana operation on Cedar Park Road, our mostly residential street just outside Cottage Grove, Oregon. Classified by the state as an agricultural crop, cannabis can be grown and processed in Lane County on lots surrounded by rural residential properties, with many undesirable but not really unexpected effects. Our neighborhood's core concern is not the legalization of the drug, but rather the permitted size and proximity to residential neighborhoods. Traffic and noise. We have experienced a huge 6 to 10 times increase in traffic, notably heavy vehicle traffic. Many residents had their canceled their daily walks on this once safe dead-end street. This facility emits a constant rattle of commercial-scale diesel generators running all day, all night. The stench. We have experienced an incredible assault that shocks even those among us who have lived amid smaller scale marijuana grows in Northern California. For months, the intense, skunk-like, eye-watering stench prevented us from opening our windows and doors to cool our houses on summer nights. Involuntary exposure to the concentrated chemicals emitted by the cannabis operations triggered severe headaches, asthma episodes, and respiratory problems in several households on our street. We are greatly concerned about the effects of such chemicals on infants and people with weakened immune systems, and frankly, on all of us. We feel like subjects of an ill-conceived experiment on the downwind effects of large-scale marijuana operations. For months, the stench forced us to involuntarily limit our outdoor time, both work in gardens, animals, and outdoor projects. Water. Cannabis requires irrigation water. State law prohibits pumping groundwater for irrigating recreational marijuana unless the property has irrigation water rights. Nevertheless, groundwater gets pumped for large-scale marijuana irrigation without such water rights, drawing down the local water table and affecting water levels in surrounding wells. Physical safety. Cannabis can be classified as an agricultural crop, but the security concerns attached to the product, a cartel-like atmosphere with drones, security cameras, armed guards with ranges of more than 2 miles. What the heck is this kind of facility doing in a residential area? Hundreds of people live within 2 miles of it.
Your time is just about up.
Is that it?
Do you have a lot more to go? If you don't have much more to go, finish, please.
That's it, really.
Okay.
The rest is, not.
Okay. Thank you.
One more thing. I'm the foster mother, and I spoke to a woman today in Boston who is chief of the commissioner's correspondence, and she said it's in the works as far as neighboring boundaries for fostering. Because it's such a new situation, and all their laws have to go through federal blah, blah, blah.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So my name is Alexander Sarbi. I reside at 45 Dundersonville Road. I'm going to address a little bit different direction here. I'm going to address the family values. Here tonight, and what a legacy and precedent we are setting for our future generations. My family has lived in Berkshire for nearly 40 years. I know many here today, families have been here for much longer and go way back. I've seen the Berkshires grow and prosper over the years to become one of the nation's most beautiful and desired places to live. Our goal in this community has always been focused on families. We have asked ourselves at this moment in time, who are we? Who are we? Does anybody in their right mind believe that a project like this belongs next to their neighbors or our fellow citizens and residents? Families with children, seniors are vulnerable to the unknown conditions that come from a project like this. There are 3 levels of government: federal, state, and local. I believe our local government is failing us. We depend on you to protect us from predatory and opportunistic companies that are willing to sacrifice all that we've fought so hard to build and just throw it all away for a quick buck. It is time for us to reflect and take this moment to set a marker in the sand that no one can come into our neighborhoods and deprive us the right to live free and prosper. I believe our local government has no experience in this new field, that we don't have to learn from our mistakes, but to learn from other states and local governments on how they have dealt and are dealing with the cannabis movement. Our setbacks, for example, are currently just 200 feet from a school. That's it. For crying out loud, Beckett's 500 feet. Can you imagine someone building a place like Fulcrum 205 feet from Monument? We are being judged. People are looking towards us for the guidance, and Great Barrington is the brightest star in the Berkshires. Did you know in Colorado some towns require licensed marijuana producers, processors, or retailers to be located at least 1,000 feet from the following entities: 1,000 feet from a licensed child care facility, a residential child care facility. Where is that in our bylaws? 1,000 feet from an elementary school, middle school, high school, college, or university, either public or private. 1,000 feet from a public park. 1,000 feet from a library. Even 500 feet from a halfway house. Also, 100 feet from property being used for residential use, property in residential zoning districts, and property with residential use. Some towns have a greater distance than that. From our town manager to town planner, to the planning board, to the zoning board, to the selectmen, you are failing us. I join my fellow residents to fight against this project, and it started with a few and has grown to many hundreds in support, soon to reach thousands. We will make our voices heard loud and clear, and this is our neighborhood, families, and our friends. And we will not stop the fight until our voices are heard. I asked the town for some cannabis money to appoint an advisory panel on cannabis. We need to educate ourselves before it's too late. Let's learn from other states and towns before we make the world a better place. I petition emergency stop to all projects until this town updates its bylaws. We are naked and exposed to companies like Fulcrum. We will not sell our values for a quick buck. On another point that several have made is that so many in this community are really suffering from the effects of just a process. Just a simple process, not a decision yes or no. There's many families I know that don't sleep. It's just truly affecting. So every time this company or this panel or planning board or zoning board or selectmen just push it to the next month or to the next, it's just another month that you're putting stress on your fellow citizens. And I believe this is not right. Thank you.
Greetings, I'm a homeowner here in the Berkshires. I've noticed a change in our area since the marijuana
You need to
dispensary.
give your name and address.
Oh, Malay Chips, 504 Stockbridge Road, Great Barrington.
Again, she didn't get it. Again, and slower.
Malena Chips, 504 Stockbridge Road, Great Barrington. I'm a homeowner here in the Berkshires. I've noticed a change in our area since the marijuana dispensary opened. My mail packages have been stolen 3 times. I operate a home business and can no longer have inventory shipped to my house. We had a man pound on the door at 3 a.m. demanding a ride to Pittsfield. We've noticed more hitchhikers walking down Route 7 and have seen those same people later in the day in line for recreational marijuana. I want to know, I have no problem with medical marijuana whatsoever. I was at Blandford Plaza gas station on Wednesday when a car pulled up next to me with 2 boys inside. They were smoking marijuana, including the driver. As a parent of a child in their 20s, I could tell they were not over 21. They smoked a full-size marijuana cigarette next to me and got back on the road towards exit 2. My neighbor has an 18-year-old son. He was supposed to graduate in 2019 and had a full ride scholarship in football. He started smoking marijuana and decided to quit school and became a grower. He gave up his scholarship because he thought he could get his weed card and sell his personal plants to his friends under the table, so to speak. Obviously, our neighbor is devastated. These examples should give you great concern. This is how it starts. Small events become larger community issues. Once the law is passed, there's nothing you can do to stop it. We're stuck with legal recreational marijuana laws, but we don't have to stand by and allow it to ruin our community further. Developers of this project will give you all the reasons as to how it will make our town prosperous and downplay negative effects. Our property values will take a huge hit if this plan is approved. People like myself from outside the area who are willing to pay cash for your homes will not buy here if there is a marijuana plant nearby. In time, existing property owners will move if they can. People who rent will move in. You will lose the taxpayers and be burdened with people who take out from the government instead of paying into the system. Crime will also increase. New upscale businesses will choose other towns instead, and existing businesses will be affected. Anyone who's been around marijuana can tell you there's absolutely nothing you can do to remove the smell. My father is a biochemical engineer from Monsanto, and I can tell you that it takes at least 20 years to know if certain chemicals affect people, and by then they just sue the company and the company pays the fees, and the people still have cancer. So there's a side note there. Yes, there's a ton of money to be made in the marijuana business, but you need to ask yourselves is who benefits from that money? Does approving this plant benefit you in any way? Does it make you and your town safer and more prosperous? We moved here because it was a safe and beautiful, absolutely beautiful place to live. You have a heavenly little town here, and it will only stay that way if you actively protect it with everything you've got. Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Susan Lord, and I'm at 203 Highland Street in Housatonic. I have just a couple of points I'd like to make. The first is my questions about a partnership with a corporation that has not been particularly sincere in the information that they've given us, and I wanted to give one other example of that. And that's that we've been assured all along that the odor could be remediated. And yet, when they came up with their last proposal, they decided to reorient all of the greenhouses so that they would, their fans would exhaust out in another direction. It happens that that direction includes low-income housing. So to me, that's just like admitting that they don't have all the answers, and that they're hoping that if they make a few concessions, and we can say it's not in my backyard, it's okay, that we'll go along with it. So I don't feel that they've negotiated in good faith. The other thing is that there have been 2 cases where they've talked about proprietary information. One has to do with the misting system that they claim is state-of-the-art. We now know it's not. A carbon filter is state-of-the-art, though not perfect. And so we don't know all that's in the proprietary formula. Also, when they decided to cut their square footage down by a quarter, we asked them how they expected to make the same profit if they were doing that, and they said that was a proprietary technology. We have no idea if that's a business plan, whether they're planning on going all year round, or whether it's some new technology. They said nobody else has it. So my question is, what is that that we're agreeing to? Secondly, I just wanted to talk about the state of the science. I'm a physician, so I'm particularly careful about exposures that we all inadvertently come into contact with. There is relatively new research now on sound, and we understand that there are going to be large turbine fans in all of these greenhouses. We tend to think of having a jet plane go over, and that's a nuisance, but it only lasts for a few seconds when that happens. But the constant low hum has also been recognized as a health hazard. And even windmill farms are now looking at this, that people seem to be getting sick around these farms. So this is an area that certainly needs more research. We can't say exactly what's going on here. But just from a physiologic point of view as a physician, we know that noxious smells and constant noise actually affect the central nervous system. It goes to the amygdala and puts us in fight or flight, extreme stress, and that sets us up for all the diseases that we're seeing today. So this is an area that has not even been discussed, just pointing to the fact that we don't have all the facts. So the question is, do we want to be guinea pigs? Do we want to be the town that's a guinea pig for all of this? My last point is that I did notice that in the revision of this plan, they talked about monitoring the smell, which again implies that there will be a smell. But there doesn't seem to be anything in the plan that has to do with enforcement. And I know that there have been other communities around the country that have experienced increased costs, increased consequences that they just never thought about. When we all voted to legalize marijuana, none of us thought that this is what was going to happen. And so we're not prepared. And so I would support having a committee, a town committee, to really look at these things and ask the hard questions and get the hard answers. I was interested that we had to hire a lawyer to ask these hard questions instead of our town lawyer asking them. I don't know that much about town meetings, but I would have thought that we have people on your staff that you can go and poke holes into this. Tell us all the things that you think can go wrong with that, and then we can make an informed decision.
Your time is up.
Thank you very much.
Hello, so Maureen Quigley, 9 High Street. I just want to say the reason why I moved to the Berkshires and why I chose it was the mountains, the clean air. It's a progressive community, Tanglewood. That's what I think of when I think of the Berkshires. Housatonic was always considered a hidden gem, and it just seems like it's like the hidden village that gets dumped on since it's outside of town. I just find it perplexing that we're banning plastic bags, water bottles, etc. And then we're open to someone like Fulcrum coming in and even stressing the community even more by voting before you even had our input. Obviously, most of the community does not want it. We have yet to hear someone who does want it. I want to say 25 years ago, I had to read this book at grad school called Betrayal of Trust. And it's a collapse of global public health. And it has to do with trust. And I want to talk about Flint, Michigan. They had a water crisis. Merrimack Valley, excessive pressure in natural gas lines, blowing up homes, destroying an entire community, costing more than $1 billion in damage. This was all due to human error. Human error. So as citizens, we count on you to make the right decisions. I don't know if you want to be a part of the next book that people in graduate school read about, Great Barrington, Massachusetts. The other thing I wanted to talk about is electricity for these grow houses uses more than a hospital. The water also for the water table, I don't know if you guys know, is already low in eastern Mass. In this project, are we conserving water or are we adding to decreasing the water tables? On the December 30th meeting, the question was asked to John Heck, why is this site why does everybody want it? And his answer was very clear, water and power. So we have yet to have any kind of qualified soil engineer, and my understanding is Nolan gravel bed is considered a contaminated site of PCBs. I could be wrong. We had a big conversation about odor, but we failed to talk about that there's also going to be odorless chemicals that are spewed into the air. Some, which we have no idea what they are. On a medical note, having a medical background, marijuana, I'm not against medical marijuana. I have seen it be work very well for cancer patients. However, it's not federally regulated, so if you have someone with a chronic condition and they have medical marijuana, they fall, they break a hip, they go into the hospital, they get put on opioids. They never wean them, they discharge them, the patient goes into a pain crisis. There is no orthopedic surgeon, there is no physician who wants to deal with that. So now you've created a bigger problem that contributes to the opioid epidemic. Just kind of looking at the overall picture. The other thing is, when speaking with John Heck, he was mentioning different things for DEP approved. I just want to know, where is the documentation for that? And when things are being said, where is the documentation? And as we all know, an expert, I've been in the medical field for 25 years. I could call myself an expert. Experts mean nothing. FDA approved means nothing. Organic means nothing. Everything can be toxic.
Your time is up. Thank
Okay. So the last thing is,
you. Your time is up.
Okay.
I gave you an extra minute and a half, so thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Looks like I have to take this off. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Bettina Montano, 207 Oak Street in Housatonic. I know we're here because we are, feeling things very strongly about the Fulcrum project. And it has taken me a long time to get to the point where I am standing here. I've attended so many meetings and spoken to so many people and connected with so many families on this particular topic. But I'm here tonight as a parent, an educator, and as someone who has spent the last 25 years building places and developing programs that support the young people in our community. Our family moved to Housatonic when our first child was 3 and our second only 4 months old. I remember the day we looked at our home for the first time, standing on the front porch and watching a group of boys ride their bikes past the house with fishing rods on the way to the Housatonic River to fish. And I remember thinking so clearly, this is the life I want for our boys. I remember the first day I walked into the old mill building at 420 Park Street, up to the 3rd floor, and looked out the window overlooking the Housatonic and saw the empty school across the river, and thought to myself, this will be the place where our children, where our students dance. This will be the place where we build and bring children back to our village to learn and grow. And sure enough, since that day, hundreds of children have come through our doors, danced in our studios, and sure enough, my boys have grown up in that house, fishing in the Housatonic, playing in the park, riding their bikes with their neighborhood friends. We live less than a mile away from the proposed Fulcrum site. Even closer to the site, at the end of our street, is the Housatonic Cemetery, where my children, their cousins before them, and countless others have learned to ride bike. And even closer is a field where children fly kites on spring, summer, and early autumn days. Just a stone's throw away from there is the Housatonic Park, where children play every day. And just a stone's throw from there is Berkshire Pulse, on the 3rd floor, where students, children, teens, adults, people as young as 3 and as old as 90. Come to dance. Windows wide open on those warmer days and months, and that are now frequently referred to here as the growing season. So yes, I am opposed to this project. I'm opposed to anything that cannot guarantee that it will not hurt the lives of the families I bring to Housatonic. I'm opposed to anything that cannot promise with certainty that it will not damage the air our children breathe and the water our children drink. I am opposed to anything that does not build community or support the well-being of the families we so desperately need here in the Berkshires. I'm opposed to anything that will not nurture our environment and help our children thrive. And you, elected officials, should be too. Laws need to be put into place that protect the children of our community first and foremost. While the proposed site for this 58,000 square foot cannabis growing and manufacturing facility is zoned light industrial, it is literally surrounded by a community of families. At the community outreach meeting for Fulcrum, I repeatedly heard the director speak about Housatonic as a place that is on the outskirts of town. We're not on the outskirts of anything. We are in Housatonic.
Your time is up. Thank you.
So please, you have an opportunity to do right by us and to do right by my children and all the children in this community and their children. This is an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Denise Forbes, 325 Northland Road. I just want to say that it's the people of Housatonic versus big business. The select board of Town of Great Barrington should reflect on the villagers of Housatonic, as we are not pushovers. Apparently, someone in town told John Heck, this will be an easy win. You'll be welcomed in Housatonic. Well, I can tell you this was not by any resident of Housatonic. How wrong could that person have been to mislead him with that information? So I urge the select board and basically every other board there is who has anything to do with this, to reflect on this, as this is an election year, and we basically are looking at everything as we go forward, and we would really appreciate everyone think about the people, not the big business. People matter more, and as Ed always says, it's never that simple. Thank you.
Garfield Reed, Great Barrington, Castleton Avenue. I'm here actually to thank the select board for having the insight to realize, not to refuse their withdrawal, and to note that this is indeed a topic that is tearing this town apart. And if they indeed do try to come again in front of us, the town, us people of Great Barrington, that you'll realize that it's something that was tearing us apart, will not be healthy for this issue or the town. Thank you.
Seeing no one else? Select board time, Lee.
I'd just like to ask the topic that Holly Hamer brought